So to go back where we left behind, is that it's really interesting to, I think all of us are now reimagining and reconsidering the pedagogy of teaching. So two things nowadays is coming up quite often is something called intrinsic and extrinsic. So we all know that we do things, motor movements that come from within, and how we can actually channelize this intrinsic impulses and then gradually, as Smriti says, add on the flavor of cultural context in order to make them understand why a form rather than imposing that this is a form, you have to hold it on your body. So if we can go through an internalized process, I think that would be possibly, if I use the word at all, better way of or rather perhaps natural way of teaching. Well, I'm not commenting, it's just an observation. It's just a process, as she says. She is doing, I think all of us need to consider and reconsider and work on this. So if we can arrive at it. Now I would like to go back to, you said that most of the things, whatever we do is psychic. It comes from our psyche. So when you look back at your training of Karana, if I say, from your understanding of Karana as it now, and how do you look at the movement? Because as we say last time, we are joining now the limbs, and we know that there was a famous saying, Astapada Samayoga Nityasya Karanam Bhavet. It's immensely popular. So when we bring that in, and you have also mentioned that every movement has a meaning, right? So three things I would like to put. First is how do you perceive Karana now? One. Second, in terms of movement, in terms of kinesis, how do you look at it at this moment? And we also get to know another thing, that Karanas were introduced for a particular purpose, right? We have talked about grace, so we know Kaishiki, Vritti, but I won't go much technical. How does that contribute in the building of language of Natya? Because since we know Karana, that the ultimate goal is to implementing Natya, to make a language of Natya. So how these things you would like to address at this point?
So the first thing I like to say about the Karanas is that these are found in the Natya Shastra, and the Natya Shastra is it has no interest in defining style or form. So it's talking about something even more fundamental than that. Style and form, as we briefly spoke, is a contribution of Desha, where you live, when you live. So style and form is, it's like a garment that you wear on top of your body. But at a fundamental level, at an operational level, there are things that are very universal. And those are the things that Natya Shastra is actually trying to teach us. The inner metaphysics of movement, the inner metaphysics of the mind, and how it works. So the Karana, actually before I go into the Karana, there's one small thing that I wanted to demonstrate, and that's actually one of, I believe, something that we can really take from classical dance and apply in whatever our dance practice is. Because it's a tool that empowers classical dance immensely. So I'd like to demonstrate that by actually inviting Ashwini and Pinky. So like I said, Ashwini doesn't have dance training as such. So I'm just going to cue her to do something, and we'll see how she does it. And then Pinky will do the same. So if you can demonstrate how you would apply perfume. There's no perfume bottle, you just have to apply perfume. You can face them. think he's going to do the same. So Rajlakshmi did this for perfume. She was using a bottle and she sprayed it on herself. And she gave us a little bit of context because she kind of went, stink. And then she kind of picked up the bottle and she sprayed it and she said, I smell very good. So she gave us context, but without context, you would have wondered what this is. Is she scratching herself? Is she thinking? Or is she spraying perfume? You wouldn't know. But with hastas, which is what we used in her demonstration, things are a little bit more clear. Just to like give you an example, picking up a flower and smelling it. This is how an untrained body would probably approach it. I'm just giving you, maybe an idea. This could be one. This could be anything. This could be a bottle, this could be coffee, this could be anything, a rock, a metal, anything. But a dancer would pick up a flower like this and smell it like that. Or show the flower, which means she's creating the shape and form of the flower in your mind. And then she's smelling it. This hasta, why this hasta for the flower? Because this represents the guna or the characteristics of that flower, which is tenderness and also plucking. So there's two things that this captures, both the tenderness of the flower as well as the plucking action. So therefore it's an appropriate choice. And this makes it extra good. Whereas this leaves you questioning, what could it be? Could it be a flower? Could it be something else? So this is the power of hastas, right? If you have the appropriate gestures, your storytelling can be quite powerful. And I know there's going to be a lot of questions around this one, but we'll come to it at the very end. I want to keep going because we have so much to cover. And we got really started on Karanas, so I think I'll head on in that direction.
One addition.
Yes.
You have mentioned about Guna.
Yeah.
What about Guna in Karana?
Guna in Karana, yes, that's definitely something that we are going to cover. So a Karana, as we mentioned, are these movements that I mentioned in our Shastra, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. The Karanas are 108 in number. I'll just give you a quick bullet points of what is a Karana. Karana is made of essentially three different parts. One is called a Sthana, the other is called a Nritta Hasta, and the other is called a Chari, which involves the movement of the legs, and there is movement of the arms and the hands, and finally it's the Sthana or the form that will perform the Karana. So these are essentially the three parts of the Karana. But interestingly, if you were to read the Nadi Shastra and how the Karikas for each of the Karana structure, you will find that it's not described like that. It's not given to you like, okay, Karana number 1, Tala Pushpa Putam, Chari equals this, Thana equals this, Nritta Hasta equals this. It's not given to you. But what is it defined in terms of what? It is defined majority, 90 or let's say 80%, safe side. Okay, I want to say 90%, but 80% of the Karanas are described in more general terms. And in terms of desha, which means position of your hands or legs, and hasta, samyuta hasta, like the gesture that we talked about, and what else? And rechakas, which I demonstrated earlier. The rechakas of the hands, or the feet, or the neck, or the gut. So it seems as if Bharata is not so preoccupied with the Nritta Hasta, Chari, and Sthana, but is going. He's on purpose. He keeps it very general. So how do we make sense of this? So I'm just going to first make one statement, and then I'm going to corroborate that with further things. A Karana is a psychophysical movement. Now this statement I'd like to explore in different ways. Psychophysical movement. What is a psychophysical movement? It's essentially a movement that has two components. One is a physical component, and the other is the psychological. Now, I'd like to argue that the physical and the psychological component of a karana is essentially like it's two parts of the same whole. Without one part, there is no karana. If you remove the psychological aspect of the karana, then it's not a karana anymore. If you remove the physical aspect, it's not a karana. So, going back to what I briefly discussed about kinesis, where we said that every movement inherently has meaning. And that meaning stems from the psychological aspect of the karana. That's why psychophysical movement. Now, I'd like to use the next chunk of our time together to demonstrate what and how and why a karana is a psychophysical movement, and what are things that we can learn from this and apply in our own practice, how we think about movement. I believe that this has really helped and shaped my understanding of movement, and I'd like to share. So, let's start with sthana. Sthana is a form. What is sthana? Sthana is, there's this much space around me, and I'm standing in this space. Now, depending on my inner space, my inner mind, and the shape that my inner mind takes, I can take and claim that much space from this space around me. Right? I can expand myself according to my inner space. Or we can do the other way around. Let's say I'm an actor. I've had a pretty sorrowful day, I've had a horrible day. I have to go in and I have to act. And the cue that I've been given is, I have to be angry, or there's a war scene that's going to happen. And I can't get it within me to feel angry. It's just not happening. So then what can I do? What switches in my body can I press to feel anger? So the idea with the sthana is the sthana itself can trigger that switch and now put you in that mood of anger. So sthana then becomes a gateway to your mind, to your inner self, and therefore the mind-body connection. Right? So karana is a psychophysical movement purely by the fact that there is a sthana associated with it, and depending on which sthana is used for what karana, that karana will have a particular reverberation. If it's a sthana this wide, then it will have a reverberation that expansive. But if it's a sthana that is not so wide, then it will have a reverberation that is only so much. And so sthana is essentially when you're capturing space, claiming space around you, and that's a reflection of your inner space. That's what sthana is. So you can travel to your mind through your body. And now we are going to explore the idea of desha. Like I mentioned, in his karikas, Bharata doesn't give us formulas like karana, this karana is this strung together. Rather, he describes so much of it with respect to desha. Now, what do I mean by desha? Desha is limited space. I'm not getting too much into the technical aspects of how to define it, but for our purposes, I'm going to say desha is the limited space around me. So you can sort of think of it as a segment over here, as a segment over here, by my thighs, by my knees, my legs, and things like that. So these are all different deshas. Now, when he describes, I'm going to pick a few karanas. We're not going to do the karana, but we're only going to explore desha. So, Shai.
Yeah.
So, Unmattam is a karana that is prescribed for, or that is associated with the feeling of pride. And for this, Bharata gives us a very specific positioning of the hands. Now, before I tell you what that position is, I would like to ask, do you think for pride, if I want to show pride, the position of the arms should be up here, here, or here. What do you think is the most appropriate position for pride? Up here, here, it's here. This is so intuitive, it's a no-brainer, right? Because it's pride. And this is exactly what he's telling you. He's not obsessed with how you get there or the particular style in which you present it. Rather, he's only telling you that desha, pride. That's it. It's as simple as that. Okay, so but we want to now actually take this idea of desha. Actually, sorry, I also want to express one more thing. We spoke about hastas, and hastas, when combined with desha, automatically can change the bhava or what is it like. For example, Alapadma, this is Alapadma hasta. If I place Alapadma here by my belly, it signifies birth. If I place it here, it's bhava or feeling. If it's here, it's speech. If it's here, it's thought. So desha can change so much, right? How it's presented. So desha is a big part of how Bharata has written the Puranas. The next very, very important element is dik or direction, and which is what I will actually demonstrate. Now, if you can just hold the position of Om, which is this. Now, you're basically seeing Shaya from the front, and you can see he's very expanded. His chest is expanded, hand is up there, you can see his head is tilted, and maybe his chin is a little more lifted. This is immediately pride, right? Now, if he did the same movement facing that direction, let's see what that looks like. Yeah. Does this look like pride anymore? It looks like rejection. Go away. I don't want to talk to you. This does not look like pride. I am the best. When you see my chin up, when you see how big I am, then it's pride. But when you don't see it, then it's not pride anymore. So the same position, when held in different directions, can completely change the way it is perceived. And therefore, direction is a very, very important part of how a movement is presented. So it's not just, okay, Ummata Karana means pride, you can do it in any direction and it will emanate pride, it won't. It will only emanate pride if you do it in the correct, appropriate direction. So this is dik and desha. Okay. So then, okay, so I want to now kind of summarize what a karana is and see if we can take some of these ideas and thoughts. You don't have to learn all the 120 karanas. In my perspective, the real gems that are there, that one can collect from the karanas are not the movements themselves, because again, you're trapped with style and form and such things. So instead of again getting trapped in that, why don't we collect these gems, these ideas and concepts that Bharata is trying to explain to us? So I'm trying to summarize that for you. The first idea of a karana is an unbroken movement. An unbroken movement. It is just one single movement. One single movement. What do I mean by a single movement is that it has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And that's it. It doesn't have multiple beginnings, multiple middles, and multiple ends, because that would become a choreography. A karana is one single movement. And in our own practice, whenever you're coming up with something, if you have one unit of movement, it will be interesting to think about it along these lines. Like, can I make it an unbroken movement? And what would the trajectory look like? What is the start, what is the middle, and what is the finish? If it has a clear beginning, middle, and an end, then it's a well-defined movement to start with. So the next thing is Ekadesha Prapti, this idea of Ekadesha Prapti, which is a very interesting concept, is essentially this idea that movement is happening along one side of the body. Which means that if my right hand is moving, my right leg is moving. Right? You can try this. It's very hard to do left and right. I'm giving you an extreme situation here where I'm trying to contort my body with the right and the left. But the most natural way, and you saw this when we were doing too, is that the right leg moves, the right hand moves, the left leg moves, the left hand moves. This is a little unnatural. And so, this idea of Ekadesha Prapti is a harmonious fusion of the upper and lower body along the two, two parts of our body, which is the left and right. So, that is one aspect of the Karana which is very interesting. And then, the idea of an unbroken Kriya, which in the practice of the Karanas is achieved through the Rechakas. The Rechakas of the Griva, the Kati, the Pada and the Hasta. Now, we demonstrated the Rechakas earlier. The Rechakas are actually very, very ornamented. They make your movement extremely ornamented and, embellished. So, when you're acting, when you're using the same movement with all these Rechakas, the question is, does that work when you're acting as well? And we'll explore this question in our next segment, because I request Shaik to actually demonstrate some Karanas for us. And Shaik is an extremely trained actor. He can play with these Karanas and show you how the same Karana movement can be used to capture a certain expression as an actor. So we go there, and there we can actually experiment and see if Shaik, if he ends up using a lot of Rechakas, if he can achieve the same effect in acting versus dance. Okay, so let's start with. Actually, before I go into that segment, I just want to make one statement. Is that I've come to understand that every Karana has its own time and space. And hopefully in this next segment, as we demonstrate all the Karanas, you can see that every Karana has its own time and space and what that really means. And one of the things I also mentioned earlier was when we spoke about kinesis, is that every movement has meaning. And meaning arises from context. Now, if in dance, there's not necessarily context, no context that I have set in dance, right? In pure dance, but just pure dance. If I just do the movement alone, with no context whatsoever. Will it have meaning? Does it have meaning? Does it not? I'd like for you to experience this for yourself. So shall we make a start off with Vrishchika Rechita? We're not going to tell them what it's used for. We'll just show them the Vrishchika Rechita.
Yes. It's Vrishchika Rechitam actually. It's you are going to fly from the land. You are just on the aeroplane. Think about aeroplane. You're sitting. The propellers are started moving, and you are flying on the sky. So the movement is how Bharata explained that this swastika hasta again and again vyavartita parivartita. So again and again vyavartana parivartana, it seems like a machine. And when you are lifting on the top, you feel that for the bhara, after taking off, we settle down like this way. So this karana has such quality. After reaching in the point, it is also settled down. How it happens? Now, this flight in the sky, I have to get down from the sky to the floor. How? Gridha Parinaka. Okay. So this is the process of flying and again getting down through Karana. If you put it as a dance movement only, you don't require this much thought process. But all Karanas has this kind of thought process behind the movement. So these movements are not only it's not only the movement. You are getting the difference? So this is a dance movement only, and here is a psychology. So the movement already inbuilt with a psychophysicality.
So now you see why it is psychological. Right? If you take the psychological part out of it, then there is no physical part left actually. But give a more as we move. But Shai, don't give away what the bhava is next time. Okay, so this one they are going to guess.
Don't tell that.
Don't tell them what this is. We
Okay.
see if
Don't
they
explain.
can
So cutting Sinha.
sense what the bhava is.
Yes.
Okay, let's do Nikunji.
Nikunj.
So any sense of what that was? Okay, let's just do it as a dance. Just as much as Bharata has said. This is just the movement. And the first one was the application of it. So let's do the application. Any guesses? Anybody want to guess?
Like a big bird looking for its prey. It's Vivada Pranidhani. It's actually that. I want to fly. Who are you? Hey, what is that?
Looking for something.
Yeah, I have to fly. You go.
So what is described in the movement?
No, actually in the dance movement, there is hand is not here, hand will come here. Then they will be confused. Yes, this is the dance. Yes, this is the pure dance movement. Do it again. See, this is the pure movement. Here you have to make the shape of the body like a omkar. Is a different purpose.
So let's now move on to Anchika. Again, let's not say anything. First, just the dance movement, no application. Application, just the dance.
Just a dance.
Yeah. Anchika. I want to take you through this movement a little bit because there's so much learning from this one particular movement. In Bharata's Karika as well as the commentary that we get from Abhinav Gupta, we got a few things, and for the longest time it was puzzling why the hand position was mentioned to be placed in front of the nose, and why after that we get something Anchita and then Udanchita, where the hand now is to be raised upwards. This was puzzling. What is this? This doesn't seem like a dance movement because it doesn't seem like an end. There doesn't seem to be a resolve in the movement. It seems like we stopped somewhere in the middle. We needed to finish it and resolve the movement. So this was a puzzling thing, and suddenly one day we understood the prayoga for Anchita is curiosity, like you're looking for something, you're searching for something and you're very curious. And this falls under, say, like vismaya or wonderment. It's sort of you're wondering what it is and you're looking for it. Now forget about dance or anything like that. Just when you're looking something, what is a very common gesture? Right? Like I was looking at you guys like this sometime ago because of eyes. So this is a very common thing where the hand goes to this desha. So again, desha became a very important aspect here in understanding the bhava of the karana. So first you bring your hand here, like you see all the Miss India, Miss Universe, when they announce their name, this is the finalist or you won. So this desha is for Vismaya. When the hands come to this desha already, you are in that territory of Vismaya. Now from here you want to go into this sort of, I'm curious, I don't know what's going on, I'm searching. So then you're going into this desha. Forget about the hasta for now. Hasta comes under stylization. But desha alone can help us understand the bhava of the karma. So now we can do it and we can see the bhava of the karma. The question that I had posed earlier about Rechakas. If we were to use the same number of Rechakas that Shaikh used when he did it outside the context of this, if you were to use it here, then will the same Vismaya come out? Will he be able to communicate? What do you think? If he did a bunch of Rechakas and brought it here, and then another bunch of Rechakas and brought it there, then will Vismaya come out? The answer is no, right? I mean, it's just too much. It's drowning in Rechakas and the bhava is getting submerged. So, it's so beautiful and interesting here is that again, a karana is not to be treated as a black and white. This is the movement. It's not like that. When it is an actor's tool, so when the actor uses it in Natya, he has to, if it's a clever and trained actor, he'll know what to cut, what to keep. So what becomes important? Not the Rechakas, but the Desha is important. Desha is important. So again, the importance of Desha and Dik. If he did the same thing somewhere else, you will not get that one. So the direction that the actor chooses to do it in is also important. He was searching for something. So when you're searching, obviously you scan, not in one thing, you scan. So Dik becomes important. So Desha and Dik are such integral parts of the karma. A Rechaka is important, but not as important when you are trying to express or communicate a specific nuanced emotion. It is important in dance, where holding your consciousness and holding a movement and keeping that continuity is very important. Right? Okay, so next we'll demonstrate Akshita Rechaka.
Done.
Done. Just a moment.
Just
this is Akshita Rechaka. The description of this is essentially the arms swing from one side to the other and asamanta, they go all over the place. And finally it ends in a position. Here, Bharata doesn't tell us which position. But he tells us that it ends as if you're giving something to somebody. So here again, we can understand that Bharata is, he doesn't talk to us like we're babies and give everything. Everything is not given to us. It is for us to understand based on what we saw was universal. You're giving something to somebody. How would you give it? You would offer your hand like this, or if you're giving it as a blessing, you do this. So you can decide the desha accordingly. And now why that leg was doing that? when the hand is doing this. Bharata doesn't say anything about the legs. He doesn't just say the legs are moving that. That is our interpretation of what the leg could do. But on what basis have we come up with that particular interpretation? We've come up with that particular interpretation on the basis of Ekadesha Prakti. When I mentioned that there has to be harmony between the upper and the lower body, the left side and the right side of the body, then what happens is you have to choose now. You know that the hand has to go around and finally you have to land in a position where you're giving something to something. Then what will the leg do? The leg, in our case, we've chosen for it to imitate the hand. Because we've chosen the hand to go around everywhere and finally end here like you're giving something to someone, we've made the leg imitate the direction of the hand and that general movement trajectory. So this is the idea of Ekadesha Prakti, which comes in very handy when you have to make such choices. So everything is not given to you. You have to come up and you have to understand what a Karana movement is, why it is psychophysical, the fact that Ekadesha Prakti, Hastapada Sama Yoga, Rechakas and Sthana and all of these things are part of a Karana movement which is a psychophysical. That means these are integral elements in making it psychophysical. So these elements are not there when you're trying to come up with it or understand it. Then it's not a psychophysical movement, is how I understand it. So moving on, we'd like to demonstrate a few more.
I think more than we have understood this. Yes. And another important aspect would be, see, there's psychophysicality, how you implement it in art here. But when it comes to, let's say, nritta, dance, it's a continuous flow of movement, then how, and you say that this is one kriya, Ekadesha Prakti. Then in that case, how do you fuse the movements? Then do you continue to perform it one after the other? What is the process in that case?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting. So this is actually a very, for me, when I understood this or hit upon this idea, it was an eye-opening idea. It really spoke so much about Bharata, what Bharata is really trying to teach us. So one of the things is the idea of an Angahara. So the Angahara in the Natyashastra is essentially a cluster of karanas, a garland of karanas, where karanas are strung together. Now, in describing the Angahara, he says that the manner in which you string these karanas are very, very important. And he says very specifically that an Angahara is made of karana matrikas, not karanas. Now, nritta matrikas, not karanas. What is a nritta matrika? He defines a nritta matrika as a fusion of two karanas, as a merger of two karanas. Now, how do we know that it's a merger of two karanas, a fusion, and what that fusion really entails? He goes so far as to describe that upon fusing the two karanas, what you arrive at is a completely new avayavi, which is a new shape and form altogether. So it's not A plus B. It is completely fusing it so that A also exists, B also exists together in a new shape and form. So that is essentially the fusion and the formation of a nritta matrika, and it is the nritta matrika that gets strung together to form an Angahara. Now we talked about karana, extensively about a karana being a psychophysical movement. Now when you string two karanas together and fuse two karanas together, what happens and you get a new avayavi, what happens to that psychological part? I think it's interesting to see. Let me show you one example. Shai, can you watch?
Yeah, the fusing. Yeah.
You can show this separately.
Nikamba and Karas.
Oh, let's do one.
Yeah, and
Separately or separately?
two different Karanas. One is Vyamsita. Another one is Nikutaka. this. Now we are fusing. Vyamsikam, the prayoga is Hanumat prayoga mentioned. Hanumat prayoga means how Hanumana bring the parvata. And Nikutakam, Atma Garve, Atma Saubhagya Adi Vishayi. So now if I fuse bringing the parvata and Atma Saubhagya together. So this is the fusing of the karmas.
So I think with that, we sort of come to the end of all things that we had to share. Still one last segment left, which is for each other.
We have seen from this now, I think it's time for us to see how do you string them together when it comes, let's say, Vivaha, Sahitya, Prayoga Siddhi, we all know that. So how do you all bring together in a Prayoga? That would be an interesting thing to see.
So I'm going to dance now to demonstrate this, and please bear with me. I'm going to try my best, and I hope that in the dance you'll be able to see a lot of the elements that we've been talking about. Just one thing I would like to demonstrate before I start the dance. Any dance that has pada or sahitya, the sahitya has to come out through your dance. So we spoke about the powering hastas, so clearly I will be using hastas to accompany the sahitya. But that's not the only way, because we've been talking about psychophysical movements. So you will see these psychophysical movements being applied to the appropriate pada or sahitya. So we're trying to match the time and space of movement with what the word means. So I'd like to just share the very first line of the sahitya is Govidam Chitam Shashi. Actually, instead of explaining the whole thing, I can just say that this entire song is about Shiva, Lord Shiva, and it describes Shiva and Shakti residing together. It also describes Shiva wearing the snake as an ornament in his hands. And I bow down to this Lord Shiva. So if this had to be captured, we talk about Chit Shakti and all of that initially, then we go on to the ornament that he wears in his hands. All this has to be captured using a psychophysical movement. Then how will it be done? I'm just going to do the movement by itself, and then you'll see it again when we do the dance. Hopefully. So, So the attempt here is to capture the, how do I say, the resonance of that first sign, the meaning and the resonance. So with that being said, I will prepare, give me 1 minute.